So at the time I had, chronic fatigue so bad, I was sucking down 2 to 3 energy drinks a day. My digestion was hurting after every meal, like literally 9 out of 10 pain for like an hour, just clutching my sides, lying in bed, like wishing it would go away. Brain fog, really bad, muscles were already sore, and started changing my diet and my lifestyle, and within 2 to 3 months, all that was pretty much gone, and I felt better than I'd ever really felt in life. Like I had all this new energy I didn't even know what to do with, and that's when I really got into fitness, and I started changing all these things in my life just because I was excited and I felt better than I ever had before, and certainly better than I ever expected to feel.
Hey guys, welcome to the Rise Again podcast. Super excited to have you here for today's guest. Dr. Ben Benulis is a doctor of chiropractic, and he reversed his autoimmune disease by switching to a very amazing, colorful, and life-giving diet that he uses and helps people recover from autoimmune disease with. He is a mover and a shaker, and this guy does a ton of different activities. He's busy building an online course. He does one-day presentations and seminars, and he's pretty prolific. He's been on quite a few different podcasts and has really made a name for himself on the Instagram community as well. So you guys can find him there at Dr. Benjamin Benulis. Let's just get into today's episode. I'm super excited to share with you Ben's story. Hang on to your seats. So I am super excited about today's guest. It's just an honor and a privilege to have my good friend and chiropractor, Dr. Ben Benulis, on the podcast with us today. And you guys remember, this is the Rise Again podcast. This is about transformation. This is about stories that can move and inspire people who are struggling with difficulties in their life. If anything on this podcast really moves you, this episode, reach out to myself or to Dr. Ben. I'm going to have all of his contact information in the show notes. And I want you to take massive action in your life, because it's where the rubber hits the road with action. So it's not just the inspiration. Now, Ben's story is super inspiring. He's done some incredible work, and he continues to move mountains with the stuff that he's doing. So super excited to have him on the podcast today. So Ben, welcome.
Oh, great to be here. I'm really honored you asked me to come on. I'm excited this morning, and I feel like we're going to record a great episode. So I'm really stoked to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, you're one of the guys I've kind of wanted on since the beginning, and the time is just perfect right now. So really set the stage real well. So, what were you up to last weekend?
Oh, I was in San Diego for the San Diego Fruit Festival. So it was a really fun time. Hadn't been to San Diego in probably 3 years. And, just getting out of that July Arizona heat into the sunny and 70s, a little more humidity, and go to the beach and just check out all the stuff there. It had been too long, and it was really fun.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, San Diego is a beautiful place, and I love it, having lived there for a couple of years. So, you've got a really incredible story about recovering from autoimmune disease and the digestive health problems, the brain fog, all the problems that came along with that. Take us back to you as a child, though. What were your passions and interests, and where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts, a little suburb called Arlington. Growing up, I was definitely a nerdy kid, so I loved math and science. When I was 5, I wanted to be an entomologist because I really like bugs. And then sometime later, I wanted to be an engineer. My dad was an architect. He was always trying to get me into that, but it never stuck with me. It just wasn't my path. So that's what I was into as a kid. Science fiction, Dungeons and Dragons, played a lot of soccer, a fair amount of baseball. I was somewhat into sports, somewhat athletic, but it was never going to be like, a college athlete or professional athlete or anything like that.
Tell us about your elementary school, middle school, high school. How did that what was your life like through those years?
I have one younger brother. He's 4.5 years younger. Played baseball up until I was about 12. Continued playing soccer. It was a real passion of mine for a long time. About age 10 or 11, I think I got into hacky sack. Was really into it through high school, and then kind of fell off, and then picked it up later in my 20s again, and really got into it for a while. So we could talk about that sometime for sure.
Well, I'm gonna put some links to some videos, because Dr. Ben's foot bagging is insane, and he tosses a foot bag like I have never seen anybody do. It's almost like he's using his hands when he's using his feet. So it's absolutely incredible, the dexterity you have there. So Yeah, I'll put some of those videos in because it's incredible.
That was really fun. This brings up an important thing that I forgot. It's kind of when I was in 8th grade, I found out about this new program that was starting at this high school. So in my town, there was Arlington High School, which is just the high school. But then there was this regional technical vocational school called Minuteman Tech. And it was mostly like auto shop and plumbing and, like electrician, like a trade school, high school. But they were starting a new tech program. And one of the programs they had was going to be called the Biotech Academy. And it was basically like, essentially, at the time, I had no knowledge of this, but it was essentially just indoctrinating and breeding you to work for the pharmaceutical industry. Like, let's be honest. So we learned about, electrophoresis and like, gene splicing and all these like biotech processes. And the school got a grant, so we were able to like use a lot of this like biotech equipment. And we were really well indoctrinated about, how like biotech was the future and we were going to cure cancer and all this stuff. And learned a heck of a lot. Like when I took biochemistry in chiropractic school, I was like, I learned all this stuff in 10th grade. Like, you kidding me? Everyone was like, this class is so hard. Like, I just remembered it from years and years ago. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I learned like grad level stuff in 10th grade. Like, we really thought we were doing a good thing. And I remember there was a girl in my class whose dad worked for, he was one of the original developers of the statin drug. Like, and this was back in like 95, 96. And back then they called it the cholesterol vaccine. Basically that if you took this drug, you wouldn't have high cholesterol. So he came in and like did this presentation, talked about HMG-CoA reductase, which we're getting super technical, but that's the enzyme that the statin drug interferes with to make your body stop producing cholesterol. So we're like, wow, we're gonna like we're gonna completely prevent heart disease with these statin drugs when they come on the market. Applied to schools, got into Penn, biomedical engineering was.
So is that one of the things that kind of pumped you up for biomed then? Biomedical engineering?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was sort of my start with it all. But it's funny because college, things veered off course, at least temporarily. So I remember, I was taking chemistry and physics and math and like the intro bioengineering class. And it was right about this time. It was about 99, 2000 that pharmaceutical companies started advertising on TV. And so before this, like now that pharmaceutical ads are so ubiquitous on television and everywhere that like it's just normal, right?
Yes.
But before then, like drug companies couldn't advertise on TV. It was like if cigarettes started advertising on TV, you'd be like, "Really, cigarettes?" But like basically there'd be these drug ads, and now it's so normal, people don't even like think about it. But you just
kind of like zone it out, when the TV ads pop up. Yeah.
But then it was like, the basic formula of the pharmaceutical ad is like, are you suffering from blah, blah, blah? If you take, Zymbalta or Prozac or whatever it is, like, you'll get your life back and you'll feel happy again. And there's like, it's symptom. So then it's like the sell on like how it'll make your life better. And then the third part is the like, but by the way, talk to your doctor because side effects could include like asphyxiation, death, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, gout, like all these things, right? And it just sort of glosses over it. And they're like, ask your doctor about blah, blah, blah today. And I saw that and I was like, what? And then I remember there was all these ads for Viagra. I realized that this industry that I was so excited to join was not ethical. That all they cared about was money. Why would they be selling boner pills when people had cancer? Why were they selling these antidepressants that could cause suicidal thoughts? Like, how was this happening? And I saw that ad, thought like, man, I can't be a part of this. And so I just sort of was like, well, I like math, I like physics. I'll just do regular engineering and then I'll just figure it out.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about what's kind of happened so far is it's like you had a plan for your life and you were just kind of following this plan. And I like to tell patients all the time, life's what happens when you're making other plans, right? And so it's almost like it just, you weren't expecting that. And then all of a sudden, 99, 2000, I mean, you put in all this energy and effort into like, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, whatever else. And all of a sudden you're like, and pharmaceutical, prepping you up for working for pharmaceutical companies. You were like right in central Pharmaceuticalville over there.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Arlington. Next door was Cambridge, so like Amgen was there, Biogen, like, oh, you know.
And I think you've mentioned before, I've heard in another podcast, it's like we have massive respect for the pharmaceutical industry when it comes to acute care. It's like amazing at what they do. And like this technology has saved countless lives, but we're talking specifically more. I mean, we're speaking to more of the chronic disease model, which is, you know, Ben's going to get really into this. So, okay. So going into regular engineering, or you say regular, what was regular for you? Like, what did you mean?
Well, yeah, I thought maybe I want to do something with biomaterials. So I did materials engineering for like a semester, but then I was in classes with all the mechanical engineering students. And then I saw what they were doing and it just looked really fun as far as like basically building and breaking things, you know? And I was like, this will be fun. The job options are like, you know, so good that I'll find something I like. There'll be something I like. So that's what I did. I did mechanical engineering. It was super fun. I got really into aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, heat and mass transfer. Like I just loved all the math and science behind all of that from like a theoretical standpoint. Loved it all.
So what ended up happening from that?
I graduated in 2003 when the economy was still kind of in the recovery mode from, you know, 9/11 and the dot-com bust and all that. So job offers I had come out of school were got a civilian job with the Navy in Washington, D.C., which didn't want to do. Got a job offer making catheters for a medical devices company. And then got a job doing like fluid stuff and plastics for a trash bag company. Like talk about just stuff you don't want to do, you know?
Okay.
I'm just like, whoa, what is this? So I took a job working for my fraternity as a consultant. And I basically had this job traveling the country. I had a territory of like 7 or 8 states and one Canadian province, like in my 88 Corolla, just driving around and, you know, having to meet with them, understand what was going on, give presentations. So it really bumped up a lot of soft skills that I didn't have especially as far as like public speaking, presenting, communication, stuff like that. You're on the road, you know, like 250 days out of the year. Once I was done a year of that, I was just like, man, like you got the option to go 2 years, but I just had to bail. Had a buddy who was in Austin. He is working at a tech company down there. He's like, I was like in Austin, like in Texas, there's tech jobs. He's like, oh yeah, Austin is where like the first microchip was ever made. And ended up getting a job, computer chip company. You might have heard of them, Advanced Micro Devices, for them for a while. Then bounced over to another tech company, and it was like a year or two into that's when I started to like notice health problems.
Okay. So here you are kind of doing stuff that you're just like, you're just kind of, it sounds like you're just going through the motions, just kind of doing these different things, not super passionate about it, learning some skills, but at the same time, just staying busy, just doing different work, trying to find something that's going to like fit, you know, that's going to work for you, that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah. And it was one of those things like I was making really good money.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were super stoked and proud of me. My peer group, you know, even when like the recession hit in 2008, 2009, I like still had a job and, you know, all that, like on the outside, everything looked like Ben's rocking it, you know, but at the same time, I was like microchips that are going into TVs in Japan, like who cares?
Were you, prior to this health stuff that we're going to talk about, were you experiencing any issues with mentally and emotionally? Where were you in your life, do you feel like at that time?
Good question. I mean, I had dealt with depression on and off since I was a teenager for sure. But I think at that point, like I was pretty happy in life. It wasn't as bad as it used to be. I mean, I think everybody deals with that to some degree, but I was mentally and emotionally, I was, you know, in a pretty good place.
Okay. Health wise, how had your health been up till this point?
You know, it's definitely like as a kid, my mom was like the overparenter. And it was like, yes, give them antibiotics. Yes, give them all the vaccines. Like just like wanting to do a good thing, right? So I was
want to be a good parent, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I was never put on like, you know, Ritalin or like I was never on like any sort of like drug that you always take. But I was definitely like, you know, if I showed up with a cold, it was like, you know, get the pediatrician to put him on antibiotics, even though it's, you know, probably a virus, right?
Sure.
I had gone vegetarian in like 2005, maybe. just
Okay.
for like more for environmental and ethical reasons than health. Like I knew that like factory farm meat was like not a good idea, right? But it was just sort of like I was vegetarian, but I was still eating a standard American diet.
Okay. So like lots of cheese and, eggs and milk and kind of stuff like that. Or
I
what were you doing?
didn't like eggs, but yeah, a lot of dairy.
Okay.
A lot of milk and cheese, a lot of processed foods.
What health issues did you have up to this? I mean, did you have any sinus issues, or did you have any digestive problems, or?
I had always been thin my whole life, so
Okay.
I just sort of assumed that I was healthy. I did have, and still kind of have nasal polyps.
Mm-hmm.
Around 15, 16, I lost my sense of smell. Mom took me to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. He looked in, he's like, you got nasal polyps. He's like, you got two options. I can cut them out, or you can huff steroids and hopefully they'll make them go away. And if not, we can cut them out. And I was just like, I kind of don't want to do either of those. So I was like, I can live without my sense of smell. So I have for the past, 20 years.
No, just slow burning health issues. Yeah. Things
No.
are pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So where did the wheel start to fall off?
I would say it was like early 2010 was when I first started to notice like meals I ate wouldn't agree with me. Like, everybody has that to some degree. Like occasionally you eat something, you're like, oh, but this was like kind of every meal I ate or every sizable meal that I ate. And I was working out with a personal trainer at the time. And I also noticed that I was just always sore. Like
couldn't recover.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'm not getting enough protein. Started doing like protein shakes. Didn't really help. Fatigue and caffeine use was something I never know. Like my caffeine intake has been slowly ratcheting up over the years.
It had been up till that point.
Yeah. I remember like I went to the U.S. Open Footbag Championships in 2006, and the event got sponsored by Rockstar energy drink. I never had an energy drink before, and I was just like, oh my God, it's like, just you're chugging it. It's like dopamine is like surging through your brain. I was like, where has this been all my life? So I by that point, I had an energy drink addiction where I was doing like often 2, sometimes 3. So a lot of caffeine. I never liked coffee, but I was hitting like the Mountain Dew and the energy drinks like pretty regularly. But it didn't seem like a problem to me. Like it was just, it was normal within society to do those things.
Sure.
So I didn't really see it as like a problem.
It's kind of like, well, I guess it's kind of like a lot of other things that people do. It's socially acceptable. You know what I mean? So, So at this time you're having digestive problems, you're sore all the time, but you're trying to like overcome that with just pushing yourself even harder by doing the energy drinks, caffeine. What else?
So I don't know if it was eczema or this kind of rash on my hands. And it was really embarrassing because it was just like you shake someone's hand. So that was going on. And then I just noticed like, even though I didn't like my career, I liked the work that I did. I liked the people that I worked with. It was important to me be good at my job because there was a customer service level to it. And I just took pride in my work. And it was that year that it didn't come as easy as it used to. Like I was really struggling to keep up. And like quality of work started to just deteriorate. Like I couldn't think as clearly. I just wasn't as sharp as I was, and stupidly, I'm like, well, I'm 28 years old, I'm getting kind of old. It's like, that's what my consciousness was like, oh, my health is declining because I'm getting old. It's just like, I can't believe people say that and think that. It's such a shame. But I definitely fell into that trap. It was just like, I wasn't taking good care of myself. And I was, getting away with it for a long time. And finally my body was like, no, you're not getting away with it anymore. But I didn't know that at the time.
So what were the ramifications of your work slipping?
Well, I remember my boss called me into his office and he's like, Ben, like, what is going on? He used to be like the best guy on my team. He used to be like, you're getting inconsistent, like you're slipping up, you're making mistakes, you're like not turning things around. When I give you something to do, you used to be able to turn around pretty quick. And now you're like getting sloppy. And it's like, what is going on? Honestly, like, I don't have an answer for you. Like, I don't know. Like, I really, like, I know that sounds stupid. I'm not trying to make excuses, but like something is off. We'll get it together. He's like, you're better than this. And so, have another meeting like a few months later and same thing. And he's like, look, Ben, like if you don't pick it up when your performance review comes around in January of next year, like, we may have to let you go. And I'm like, oh God, like what is wrong? During that time, like the other symptoms are flaring up. Like my muscles are pretty much sore all the time. Like my biceps and my quads and my hamstrings, my calves, like they just ache. Like they just every day it feels like I did a killer workout yesterday. My digestion's getting really bad. I start taking just taking like over the counter Pepto-Bismol, like those little like size of a nickel, and there's like individual packs, and I just have like a bunch of them just, lining the inside of my laptop bag. And it's just like every meal I ate, well, I know it's going to hurt. So pop a little, pink pill. I start to notice it's a problem with the energy drinks when it's like I'm constantly thinking about like when I'm going to get the next fix. And like, okay, this gas station has like the cherry flavored Rockstar. I like that one. Like I'm driving by and I like the addict's mind of like, I know where am I going to get my next fix? And I'm drinking it like first thing when I wake up. It's, I'm starting to like hide it from people. Like I had this consciousness around like, it's getting bad. Like I'm drowning in something and I don't even know what it is.
Did things get worse before they got better yet?
Oh yeah, for sure. Sure.
Tell us about that.
Eventually, one of my friends was like, you should get, if you're having all these digestive problems, you should get a food allergy test. And first I was dismissive. I was like, I'm not allergic to any food. Like, how could that be? Like, I would know, right? You can't just develop an allergy in your 20s. Like it's something you're born with and you always have. Like but I'm like, couldn't hurt. I hear more and more about this. Other people are experiencing. I'm like, might as well just get tested just to see. Like, it can't hurt. Go to the lab. They draw a few vials of blood and they're like, we'll get back to you, And normally I'm not the kind of person to be persistent about following up with things. But like after I left there, I was like, man, what if I do have a food allergy? Like, what if a lot of the stuff that's going on is like because of something I'm eating? But then I'm like, no, I would have known about it. But there's just like, I'm waffling back and forth and I want to know. So I start calling the lab every day. Like, you get the results back. And that's totally uncharacteristic of me. Like, I usually don't do that. I'm just like, okay, they'll get back to me when they get back to me. But it was like a good week and a half of me calling every day.
And you're like on the edge of your seat, just waiting.
Yeah. Finally, like, it's like 3:00 on a Friday and I get the call. And the guy's like, I'm calling you, but I know you're really eager to get your results. And you probably couldn't wait till Monday. So I'm glad I'm going to get them to you now. And he's like, we got the results back. We did a food sensitivity test. He's like, we tested, you for a bunch of things. And basically it's a scale of 1 to 7. You scored a 7 for the following foods. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to hear about like, a couple of things that I'm allergic to. And he just like rattles off this litany of like 9 or 10 things.
So 7 being the worst.
Yeah.
Right. 7 most severe. Like you were 7 for like a huge list of items.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what went through your head then? You were like, because you coming from a spot where you're like, couldn't be the food, right? I mean, how could it possibly be the food? Well,
how could it possibly be the food? I've been thin my whole life. Obviously, what I'm eating can't be the problem. And it was funny because like at work, there'd be, they'd get like cookies or brownies or something brought in. And I'd be the guy who would take 2. People would be like, that's going to catch up with you one day. I'm not getting fat. Like I got good genes. Like I'm all set, which was kind of stupid because like my mom had always been thin, but my dad's always struggled with his weight. But I'm like, I guess I can eat all the cookies I want.
Like thinness is health, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That was my model. It was like, you appear healthy on the outside, so you must be healthy by default on the inside, right? The irony was that it did catch up with me, but just completely different way, right? Like I never got fat. I don't think I ever could get fat. Like just my metabolism wouldn't permit that. Yeah, so it caught up to me, and he's like, wheat, soy, casein, whey, dairy, gluten, brewer's yeast, certain kinds of mushrooms. Like he's just rattling it off, and I'm just like on the other end of the line, like, oh my God, like what? This is everything I eat, and then he kind of reads it off. He's like, so there you go, kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. I say, well, what medication do you give me for this? So it's just like, you're the doctor. You just diagnosed me the problem. Obviously, there must be a drug to fix said problem. And he's like, oh, well, no, there's no drug for this. You just got to cut these foods out of your diet. And it was like, record scratch.
Okay.
Like, wait, what? Like, I thought you had the cure. I didn't say that, but I'm like, just sort of like shocked. Like, what am I going to eat? Gluten-free air sandwiches? It was like, you just turned my world upside down. It's like all the food that I'm eating is causing, well, at least the digestive, like in my mind, I didn't realize that the other stuff was linked, but the digestion was just so bad. That was like the main thing driving me to seek help. So then I knew that the food was aggravating me, right? The level of consciousness I was at, like now I have a totally different paradigm about how health works. But at the time I was in this like medical model of like, I have the disease, I go to the doctor, they diagnose the problem, they give the drug, and then you're good. Like I didn't realize that it didn't work that way all the time, most of the time. I just start buying like the gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, fun-free Amy's macaroni and cheese. Just start buying all these like processed foods that are allergen-free. And it's like costs a lot of money and it tastes like cardboard. And I'm not having a good time. And then I would waffle. Like I would still go and get like cheese pizza when I had a craving for it. And then like, oh, I know I'm going to feel awful, but like I'll knock back a few Lactaids, a few Pepto-Bismol, and like, it'll be okay. Right. But here's the thing. Like eventually the drugs stop working. Like you can't just do them forever. They lose their potency. And then, so even taking them, I would still have problems. I went to a concert with a few of my buddies. I was living in Austin, Texas at the time. It was like downtown. I lived a few miles from downtown. I was like, I knew I was going to be drinking, so I rode my bike. But then I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to drink because I know beer like really messes with my digestion. But you're there at the concert with your friends and buddy buys a round of beers. I'm like, say no. I say no. Another buddy buys another round of beers. What the hell? I'll have one. One turns into three, which isn't like alcohol wise, a major problem, but like digestion wise, like one beer's a lot. Three is like really going to mess me up. And then so, it was like, oh guys, let's go to, it was supposed to be like New Jersey pizza. I can't remember. Hoboken Pies was this late night pizza spot on Red River Street in Austin at the time. I don't know if it's still around. Like, let's get pizza. I'm like, already had these beers. I know I'm going to pay for it. Like, might as well, I'm just like, I know I'm going to pay for it later, but like, I'm out with my friends, damn it. This is a fun night. And like, I'm just going to, food allergies be damned. Like, I'm just going to have fun. And I already had this much, might as well just go full bore. Right.
And I think it's interesting you bring this up. Let's pick up right where you're leaving off.
Sure.
That this is really important because this is something that happens to a lot of people with food allergies as they go through this period of life where it's like, it's almost like a grieving process where you have all these things, but then there's anger, there's denial, and there's just like, who cares? I'm just going to do whatever I want, right? And suffer the ramifications. Well, then what happened?
It hadn't hit yet, right? And so I get on my bike and I'm riding home and I'm like, oh, it was worth it. Like I'm like working really hard to convince myself that it was worth it, And halfway through the bike ride, I'm just like, my stomach's hurting so bad. I stop and I just barf in a ditch on the side of the road. And not like a drunken barf, like a upset stomach barf. And I'm like, okay, shake it off. I feel good now. Like, my stomach's still hurting, but I'm like, oh, I vomited. Like, I'm okay. Body got rid of the problem, Again, trying to rationalize it's worth it. I regret nothing, Get the rest of the way home, puke in the front yard. And like, I realized like my muscle soreness had really flared up, during this time. And I was just feeling so awful. Like I had this condo, my bedroom was on the second floor, but I was just feeling so bad that I just like brought my bike inside and just like, was like, okay, I can't even make up the stairs. Like I'm just going to pass out on the couch and wake up the next morning. I'm lying there in agony, clutching my side, have to throw up again. Puke off the side of the couch, just like onto the floor. I'm like, oh, I'm so sick and like in so much pain. I don't even have like the wherewithal to like clean it up. I'm just going to fall asleep. So I wake up the next morning and still in a ton of pain. I can smell like the vomit on me on the floor next to the couch. I'm just like, what am I doing? What is going on with my life? It was like all that had to happen. Not that this was a regular occurrence. Like this was rock bottom. But it was a wake up call. It was like, I can't keep doing this, like waffling back and forth, essentially half-assing it with my health.
And rationalizing didn't work at this point anymore. No,
it didn't. Like I kept getting challenged further and further. Like I would try to, just do a little bit and the universe would be like, no, you're not going to get away with that. To that point where I was like whatever I'm doing is not going to work. And I gotta figure something else out. I sort of realized like, okay, it was still about the digestion for me. Like all the other stuff was like, that kind of sucks, but that's just getting old or whatever. Like it was just like this digestion thing. Like I got to be able to eat. And I had this like lazy mentality of like, I just like when I wanted to change my diet, I just bought all like microwave foods that were like allergen free. So I was like, okay, well, how can I do this in a way that like, this was really ingrained in my psyche. Like I'm not going to learn how to cook, prepare food. That's just, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. I'm an engineer.
This is still going through your mind at rock bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, okay. And then I had like what I thought was a brilliant idea, and it was a brilliant idea. But I was like, I will just make smoothies, right? Because like fruits and vegetables got to be good for me, like, and they'll probably be easy on the digestion. And it was like a microwave thing. It was like similar mechanism of action. Like you open up the thing, you put the food inside, you close the lid, you press a button, you wait 30, 60 seconds, and you open it up and your food's ready. Now, whether that's a blender or a microwave is kind of the same thing. Like it's quick, it's fast, it's easy, not a lot of work, right? So I'm just taking whatever's in the fridge, whatever fruits and vegetables I got, jamming them in the Oster blender and just kind of press and pray, right? Like hope it turns out good, right? Some of them come out pretty good. Some of them are like, kind of got to hold your nose and just kind of soldier through it. And some of them, you take one sip and you're just like, I can't do this. Like I got to pour this out, right? So I had no idea what I was doing. I just figured it's a smoothie. You just throw any fruits and vegetables in there and it's good, you know? But then I slowly came to the realization, like, you know, maybe I should like kind of get some ideas for some recipes, right? It's like, because I'm going to be doing this a lot.
Well, did you know that you were going to be doing it a lot? I mean, at that point, were you still figuring it out, or had you been like, okay, some of these work and I'm going to be doing this for the long term? Or
yeah,
okay.
It was like, this is what I can do to eat without pain. Was basically.
Okay. So the pain actually went away when you were doing this.
Well, I mean, all the pain was postprandial for the most part,
so
or the digestive. Yeah, after eating. So it was like, what can I eat to not hurt after I eat?
Okay,
basically.
got it.
I mean, the other pain, the muscle pain and stuff like that was kind of constant, and I just kind of accepted that as life. But the digestive stuff was always like after a meal, you know, and it would be extremely severe. Like sometimes it would be like 9 out of 10 pain, where I was like, I had to lie on my bed and just like hold my sides and just like wait for it to go away. And it would take like an hour and a half. Sometimes it was that bad. So it was like, you know, loud and clear signal, something's not right. So with the smoothies, I didn't get that, but it was sort of like, I was having it less off because I was still eating other food, you know. I was like, didn't think you could live on smoothies, or didn't do it where I was doing massive smoothies where you get enough calories to sustain me the whole day. But it was a step in the right direction for sure. So go into YouTube, Google smoothie recipes, and just immediately just fall down the rabbit hole. Like, you know, there's all these vegan, plant-based, raw food YouTube channels with all these smoothie recipes. And it's just like this whole world I didn't know existed. Like I was just looking for a smoothie recipe. I thought it was just gonna be some guy like an HGTV. Like, no, I'll show you how to make the, you know, banana strawberry smoothie. So there was this guy, Dan McDonald. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
Okay, the Life Regenerator.
Okay.
At the time, he was some dude who was like a ex-drug addict, raw foodist, living in an RV in the woods in Washington State. He would like make smoothies and green juices in front of his RV. He had like long hair. He was a hippie. You know, he talked like a guy. He was a stoner. And back then, like YouTube videos were like 10 minutes long. Like that was the max, right? So he would make the recipe in like the first few minutes, and then he would just rap about health and spirituality and all this other stuff for the remaining like 6-7 minutes.
Definitely granola.
Yeah, super granola. And at first I was like, I just watched it it was like entertainment value. It was like this nut job in the woods right. In Washington State, long hair, like talking about all this stuff. Like, and I was extremely left-brained engineering guy. Like any spirituality, any like health philosophy stuff was like, just shut up and make the smoothie. And I think I even like, there were some videos where he would start talking first before he made the recipe, and just talking about his whatever he loved to talk about. And I remember commenting like you dirty hippie, just make the smoothie, you know?
Okay. All right.
And, but here's the thing, like I kept watching the videos, and like I would comment, and I remember like, some, you know, a few weeks into it, like I commented something after I'd made the obnoxious comment. He's like, he's like, I guess you're still here, like watching the videos, huh? Okay. So I'm super inspired. Like I'm doing smoothies every day. I'm going to the grocery store, getting tons of fruit and vegetables, like starting to feel better, like starting to, the digestion's better, but like the other symptoms are starting to go away. So I'm like, it's like this exciting new thing that I'm doing,
So the digestive symptoms are getting better. Obviously,
Yeah.
the muscle pain is it decreasing in severity?
It's decreasing in severity.
Brain fog, what about that?
Yeah, that's definitely lifting. Like I just have new energy. The fatigue is going away. I'm relying less on the energy drinks. It was still a very addictive habit and very hard to like let go of, but I wasn't having to like use them to get through the day anymore.
Okay.
Like it was just sort of like, just cause I enjoyed it. Like, yeah. And so I'm like, I get a Vitamix, like I'm just so inspired and excited. I get a juicer. So I'm doing the green juices and I'm feeling really good. I'm trying to tell all my friends about it, like I'm doing like, guys, I feel so good. I'm like doing this like raw foods thing. I'm just like eating tons of fruits and vegetables. Like I feel great. I feel fantastic. Nobody got it. Like I was the weird guy because no one really understood that I was sick before. Cause like health it's just, if it's how you look, then people don't know. Right. So they're like, but Ben, why are you talking about? Like, what do you mean you had health problems? Like nobody knew because I hid it. I just want to talk about it. It wasn't something you could see on me visibly other than the skin thing, which that took later to clear up. But it definitely started to improve. Yeah, I was feeling really good. It was like, and then the whole, like the message that he was talking about, because I've been, following it for so long at that point, maybe like 2 to 3 months was when I really started to feel like, wow, I feel so much better. It was like all the stuff he was saying about like creation of health versus fighting disease and like, fruits and vegetables are health food and that the degree that you want to have health, you should eat fruits and vegetables. Like the more you eat of those, the more health you will experience. When you're in a symptom and disease model of things, like that doesn't make any sense. But also I was like, whoa, this guy's like onto something. This guy's like I thought he was stupid as hell, but he's really smart.
Okay.
And like my paradigm just totally shifted, right? Because I saw my body heal itself before my eyes. Like you can talk about that and you can understand that on like an intellectual level, but until you experience that firsthand, it's like I didn't take some drug that made all my symptoms go away. I just drank a bunch of smoothies and green juices and my body healed itself. Like all the symptoms went away, and not only the symptoms went away, but I experienced a phenomenon that I didn't have a word for at the time, but now other people have called reorganizational healing. And I think that's really appropriate.
What does that mean?
The concept of reorganizational healing postulates that there are 2 types of healing or healers. The typical model is what's called restorative healing, which is like you are sick or you're injured or have some sort of infirmity. Let's get you back to where you were before you got sick, or essentially take you back to that minimal prior fragile state. And then you get sick again. Then you got to go back to the doctor, right? And then you got to go back to the chiropractor. You got like you're just ping-ponging in between sick and like almost sick, right? That's the restorative model. Let's get you back to the way you were. That kind of works, but reorganizational healing says you can't go backwards. You're a divine human being. You're mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all these things. We can't just take you back to the way you were. Sorry, there's a reason you're not that way anymore. Reason you're not there anymore. Let's reorganize, rebuild you, this new version of yourself that's even better than you were before. I didn't know that I could feel better than I was before I was sick, but I did. I had all this new energy. I started running half marathons. It was like, let's see what the body can do. I started doing Tough Mudder races, and it was just like I felt invincible. Like I felt so good that I just wanted to get out there and just do stuff for the hell of it. Funny thing, I was working out at this gym. So I was really into like personal training. I was like big into fitness, and so I had the money to spend on doing a personal training session every week. And I worked out at this gym called Efficient Exercise. I think they're still in Austin. And they basically do like a super slow type of workout. I don't know if you've heard of it, but you basically do all these exercises so you take 20 seconds to do 1 rep at a really heavy weight or something like that. So it really wears you out. About 2 to 3 months into this, when I was feeling really good, my trainer comes to me and she's like, Ben, I need to talk to you. You must be doing something with your diet or some supplement or something, because your numbers are just getting like really, really good. Like we took your body fat. You have the lowest body fat percentage of anybody who works out here. You have the best strength to weight ratio on like all your major lifts. Like your numbers keep going up at like a really rapid rate. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, let me tell you, I'm doing this diet where I just like Don't do any like processed foods or dairy or meat or anything. I just do a ton of fruits and vegetables. I love it. I feel great. And she's like, whoa, wait. You got to get protein. What are you talking about here? Like, you got to make sure you're getting enough protein or you're going to be in trouble. And I'm like, but you just told me that all my numbers were like the best of anybody who works out of this gym. And what's funny, I didn't know this at the time, but they were like two guys who kind of ran it and own it were like big into paleo and low carb. So I was like the one like fruitarian raw foodist guy who's just like crushing the numbers, breaking the rules over there. So it gave me a fair amount of satisfaction, but the recovery was beyond what I could have imagined. Like, I just wanted to not have pain when I ate. That's all I wanted. But then all these other symptoms that I just sort of accepted as normal went away. And I had all this energy and, it just reorganized me big time, mm-hmm. like serious reorganizational healing. And so, yeah, it just went from there.
So you started working out, you were getting amazing results with that. Life started shifting for you big time, and you are still engineering at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
I was married. I got divorced in 2012. In that period, when I got sick, she got pretty annoyed with me because she basically thought that I was magnifying symptoms, as we say in medical terminology, like faking it or like making it worse than it was.
Malingering.
Yeah, malingering. Like, I can't eat at this restaurant. Like, my digestion, I'm tired. I'm not up for it. I'm sick. Like, I'm not feeling good. And it was like, Ben, why do you got to be such a buzzkill? Why do you got to not?
You're probably feeling like a bother too. I was saying like, oh no, I can't.
Yeah. And honestly, like, she's like, it's not as bad as you say, but really it was worse than I was saying because I didn't want her to know, people to know how bad it was. Then when I started to get really, the pendulum swung the other way and I got really into health, and I was like, no, I feel so good. It was like she thought I had joined a cult, when I was like got into health and was like buying tons of fruits and vegetables and kitchen equipment and really excited about it. And that was like, eventually she just like had enough. So when that relationship ended, and it was like right around that time I hit age 30. So all these major shifts had happened into my life where like, this relationship that I thought I was in, I thought it was great, fell apart. This like what I understood of the way like health and disease and biology worked was like totally rearranged. Like, I realized the medical model. So I had all these revelations about like things that I thought were a certain way weren't. And so that going through that made me reevaluate, well, like, okay, if my relationship isn't what I thought it was, and like my health isn't what I thought it was, like I got to reevaluate everything, And so then it was like, okay, this job that I like the job, I like my work, but as a career path, I'm like, it's like, I see the guys who are, 10 years ahead of me. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to still be here. Like, I thought I would have figured something else out by now, And so I'm like, I'm still having like no idea what I want to do. Like, when we were separated, I had basically had all this time to myself. I was like very reclusive for about 5 months where, I would get home from work every day and my house was by this big park that not many people went to during the week. So I would just walk my dogs through the woods for like hours at a time till sunset, like every day, just by myself, away from electronics, and just got like a lot of time to like think and reflect for months. I was just like in recluse mode, really working on my health, my fitness, and just myself, and I had been reading like a lot of like Herbert Shelton books and like natural hygiene stuff on health and raw foods, plant-based diet, fasting, like sucking all that in. I just watched Forks Over Knives, and it hit me like I should, like, if all these doctors failed me, right, who were well-intentioned and smart and, nothing wrong with them, but they just didn't know how to help me. Like, obviously there must be other people going through this, and like, hey, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty smart. I could do a better job than they did. Nothing against them, but like, having had this experience that I had now, I could help a lot of people. Man, that would be way better doing what I'm doing now. I'm 30, I own a house. Like, can I really, can I move somewhere and go back to school? And like, so I originally considered naturopathy because I knew I didn't want to do drugs or surgery. Like, I knew that I just wanted to help people with diet and lifestyle and stuff like that. And that if I took the time to learn all that in med school, I wouldn't use it, right? So it became about like, I want to make good use of my time. Like, I don't want to spend it learning things I'm not going to use. So then I was looking into it. It was like, oh, there's no licensure for naturopathy in Texas. Like, you can kind of be a naturopath, but you're not a doctor. Like, you don't have can't do a lot with it. It's like, I guess I can just go to chiropractic school, be a chiropractor, and just basically function as a de facto naturopath. And then I would learn all this adjusting stuff, which, there's value in it. I had been seeing chiropractors here and there, back it up to the story of I injured my knee playing hacky sack back in 2010. And that's how I met Dr. Nick Askey.
Who's interviewed me on his podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got Broken to Unbroken podcast.
Yeah. Awesome guy. So right around that time when I was like, oh, I guess I could become a chiropractor. I had been in touch with him a little bit, and I emailed him and I was like, hey man, can I talk to you about something? Like, I'm thinking about going to chiropractic school, and like, what do you think? I'm like kind of worried because I'm 30. I don't know if I'm too old to do it. What they call wearing a tutu. Like, I'm too old, or it's like I'm too far down my career path, or like I'm too this, I'm too that. I can't do it.
Wearing
right?
a tutu. I love it. Yeah.
So he's like, writes me back. He's like, here's my cell phone. Call me. We'll talk. Like, within an hour of me sending the email, call him later that day from the dog park. It's like 5:30 on a Thursday, right? After hours, he takes my call. We talk for like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And he's just like super encouraging the whole time. Like, oh, you definitely got to do it, man. Like, you'd be fantastic. You know what you're doing. You're smart. You've had your own health challenges, so you can empathize. You have all this other experience you can bring to the table. And he's like, there were guys when I went to Palmer who were 50 starting chiropractic school. Like, at 30, there'll be plenty of people that are older than you. You'd be fine. So I was like, wow, okay. Like, that was not what I expected. I just wanted to ask him a few questions about it. I didn't expect to get this 90-minute pep talk, So I was like, I'm doing it. It took another I had to look at schools. I had to do prerequisites. It was another year and change before I started school. I was still at my job. I had to take Saturday classes. I lived across the street from a community college. It worked out, it was just worked my normal 40-hour work week. Saturday morning, got up and crossed the street, and 10 years after undergrad was going back to community college.
When people really struggle with things, like, you actually had the transformation that you had was kind of due to hitting rock bottom in a way. Is it almost like a prerequisite to being transformed that people have to hit rock bottom?
Not necessarily, but there's a few things I want to talk about that. Rock bottom sucks, but there's this concept of contrast. And sometimes you can feel like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, or I don't know what I'm looking for in a romantic partner, or I don't, I want something, but I don't know what. Hitting rock bottom or having some really negative experience gives you contrast, because you're like, whoa, I don't want that, or it gets so bad, you're like, wow, I need the opposite of this. When it's kind of lukewarm, you're in that water, you're not boiling to death yet, but you're like, I'm just getting old. I'm 27, I'm just getting old. It's just things people put up with, but when it really conks you to the head, then you're like, whoa, this has got to stop. For someone like me who's just thick-headed, I had to hit rock bottom. Maybe other people can change with a little less prodding, but for me, I don't work that way. So there's something called what Tony Robbins calls emotional leverage, which is basically the concept that when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing, when it's harder to keep doing what you're doing than to make some lifestyle change or some leap or change careers, when it just becomes too painful to stay the same, that's when people change. Because pain is a great motivator. It's got to be so great that it motivates you into doing something slightly less painful. It was not easy to uproot my life, to move to another state, to sell my house, to say goodbye to a lot of friends, to leave a very lucrative career, and take on debt and everything. It was not easy, but I'd do it again over 100 times, So what
was your journey through chiropractic school like?
I thought to myself, if I'm going to move somewhere, I want to go somewhere where I like to live, because there's this Palmer School of Chiropractic where I'll start. It's prestigious. It's in Iowa. I'm not doing Iowa and the cold and the farmland and no. So I'll move to Southern California, best produce available. I'll have a blast there. And I did. And I remember very early on, I'd moved and I was walking my dog, and I had 2 dogs at the time, and come across a like a bunch of guavas on the ground, and I like look up and there's a guava tree, and I'm like, whoa, a fruit tree. So I take the guavas home and I put them on the kitchen counter. They're not ripe yet, or I wasn't going to eat them or whatever. And I wake up the next morning, whole apartment smells like guava. So I stumbled across a white sapote tree. I didn't know what it was. Like, they just looked like these green apples, but they tasted like cream inside. I'm like, wow, there's fruit that's like not even sold in stores that like exists. That's so good. It was like this whole other world open to me. I got really into foraging, and school was not easy. Like, I did like Ivy League undergrad, and chiropractic school was way harder. Like, just the amount of workload was like insane, but you're passionate about it. You want to do it. You find a way to get through it, and you pass all the exams somehow.
So what were some of the most influential things you picked up from chiropractic school that you still use today?
Unfortunately, chiropractic school is becoming more and more like just wanting to be like med school, where they're just teaching you about sickness and disease and orthopedic tests and what's wrong with people, and how to refer them out to a medical doctor for every non-musculoskeletal condition, and like looking in ears and eyes. And it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't did not get a health education. But luckily I had that on my own, and I continued to study that on my own. Met a lot of cool people, got really involved with like the raw food community, the fruit luck community out there.
Did you say fruit luck?
Yes.
What does it sound like? Potluck, but fruit luck?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Fruit potluck, yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of those like on the beach in Santa Monica and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. I was just more there to sort of like pay my dues to get the piece of paper and get on with my life for the most part.
Okay. So now with the piece of paper, you have a little bit more influence than just saying, hey, dude, I'm Ben, I'm a fruit vegetable guy, and I'll tell you how to fix your health. Now you're like, people are coming to you with legitimate complaints, and you're like, I have a degree, I've studied this stuff, I do have a background in this, I understand the biology behind what's going on, and now I can help you influence your health.
And we'll say like the anatomy, especially the physiology, was super important to understand like the mechanism of action of how a lot of these conditions work. And like, I remember like, even though I was always been very anti-pharmaceutical, since changing my mindset on things, taking a pharmacology class was like really eye-opening, because I was sort of like, oh, I got to do this, like whatever, I'm soldier through. And then it was like just learning the biochemistry behind how these drugs work. I didn't understand like each one of these essentially, they interfere with a certain biological process that creates a symptom. And then, of course, when you interfere with a process in the body, there are downstream unintended effects. We call them side effects. And I realized like, wow, these drugs are worse than I thought.
One of my teachers said that they're all called expected effects, and the ones we don't like, we call side effects.
Like, I kind of had this like health model, chiropractic model, like drugs are bad. But it was like when I really studied them, I'm like, how does anybody of sound mind go through this and not go, those are kind of a bad idea? But it's just sort of like expected. Like we have those commercials that I talked about. Like, we're just going to rattle off the side effects because for legal purposes we have to, and everybody just ignores them. But like I was too deep in things to like just let that slide.
And I think a lot of the drugs that we see in advertisements and hear about and things, they're a lot of like biologic drugs. I mean, these are they're biologics. They're for cardiovascular disease. They're for stroke. They're for a lot of like for dementia. They're things that people are taking for chronic diseases.
Yeah.
They don't even advertise the acute care stuff because you don't choose that stuff. Like you end up in the emergency room, you're just getting what you need right then. But these are drugs that, I think it's us and New Zealand are like the two countries that allow for drug advertising. And it's kind of crazy because it says, ask your doctor about whatever. Well, I think I read a stat the other day, like 80% doctor's office visits being resulting in a prescription being written. So that being the case, doctors are like people too, where we want to let people know that we care. And if people only think that we care by writing a prescription, there's going to be a good chunk of people that are going to write a prescription either way.
Yeah.
Whether or not the person needs it, they're going to be like, well, they're going to probably feel better, the placebo effect, whatever. I'm just going to write them a prescription.
And just for people listening, I realize we get into terminology, we get into jargon you may don't understand, and it's like, okay, why are you railing so hard on these drugs? Well, it's because for heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, so many chronic health conditions, diet and lifestyle do such a better job at treating these diseases than the drugs do. So, and with no side effects. So it's like you got option A and option B. Option A is get well, stay well, and never take a drug again. Option B is get kind of well, but have side effects and stay on the drug for life. Not everybody's going to choose option A, but we should make it available.
So you have published some work around the work that you did with yourself to heal yourself from the chronic diseases that you were kind of dealing with, that autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
That work and the work that you're doing right now, get us up to speed on what you're up to right now, because you're a mover and a shaker and you're doing some really cool things in the world. So tell us about it. How can people get in touch with you as well? I mean,
most social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook is just my name, Dr. Benjamin Benulis. Look that up. Last name, Ben, like my first name, Ulis. Didn't choose that, but here I am with it. I have a free guide that teaches you like all the fundamentals of like what you need to do to recover from autoimmune disease. If you have one, it's called the Autoimmune Recovery Blueprint.com. Long name, free ebook. You grab it, you download it, you sign up for my email list. When I publish new videos or make new content, I send out emails. I really don't spam it. In fact, I probably don't send out as many emails as I probably could or should, but that's available as a resource. I do talks on autoimmune disease. Like I do a 1-hour talk every month. And then I do one-day seminars, go really in depth on the one-day seminar. So that's what I do. I'm working on an online version of the one-day seminar where if you're remote, if you're not in the Phoenix Valley, you can, basically going to videotape everything and teach you everything in there. So it's really about education. And I find that I can do that a lot better in a group setting than I can just working with people one-on-one. But I do coaching if people want that. And so that's the main thing. Otherwise, I have a chiropractic practice in Central Phoenix, Life Unfolds Chiropractic. Yeah, and I'm totally happy to answer questions. You find me on social media, hit me up, let's chat. Always excited to help people out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. It was, just for those of you, just to give a little backstory, I met Ben when he came to True North Health Center. I was the resident there, and Ben came as an intern to like check it out, to like just be a part of it, to just, and he was the top intern we had. He was all over it. He worked so hard and he loved it. Like, you were just natural there.
Yeah. I mean, I've been waiting for like 2-3 years to come there. It was like dream realized, I was like, I'm here. Oh my God.
Right.
Like Dr. Goldhammer came to my school, like, and I had heard of him and I kind of knew who he was and I knew he ran a fasting center, but I didn't know that you could intern there. And I didn't know that like it basically counted as my last semester of school. So I got to like not take classes, just be at True North, and just, it was fun the whole time. I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was fun,
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the audience. I know there's a lot of people listening who struggle with some kind of autoimmune condition or know someone who is, and there is help. Contact Ben, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with him if it sounds like a perfect fit. He's really active in the community. He is a bodybuilder. He does stuff with that. He's active. I'll put some links to the footbag videos. Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on today and for sharing your story. I mean, it's raw, it's vulnerable, and you kind of got down and dirty with all the crap that you put up with. And it's kind of like you came back around, slayed your own dragon, and here you are standing over it, looking over the past, going like, here I am helping people do the same thing that you had to get through.
Yeah. And, reorganizational healing. Like if you're out there listening to it and you feel like your health is falling apart, just know that you have the opportunity to not just get back to where you were, but become a whole new, amazing version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. And I'm living proof of that. Peter, your story is living proof of that. There is hope. We're happy to dose it out to you because we've both been to hell and back and arose again. So yeah.
Wow, wasn't that an incredible episode with Ben? Sheesh. I mean, from what he went through, struggling with his autoimmune disease and all of his gut pain, associated muscle pain, and just hitting rock bottom physically and really realizing that he couldn't put up with anymore and that the pain of change was a lot less than the pain he was currently in. that realization is what a lot of people need to actually pull themselves out of the quagmire that is suffering. So if Ben's story reached you, reach out to him. I have his Instagram and Facebook contacts, email, and things like that in the show notes for you. I'm really excited for you guys to be in touch with Ben. Give him a follow, give him a like, give him a shout out. He's a great guy. He's got an awesome story. And always remember that transformation is right around the corner. So for those of you struggling, remember, I'm here. You can reach out to me anytime. I do free consultations at my office. I can let you know if I'm the best help for you, or if there's somebody better, I will definitely send you their way. I do not like taking people's money and not being able to treat them the best that I possibly can. So for those of you who are looking for healthcare solutions out there, there's a lot of different people, and there's probably people in your area. I might be able to help you out. Give me a call. 10 minutes of my time is definitely not too much to be able to give and connect with people who take the time to listen to the podcast. So please give me a call. My office phone number is 480-256-1075. And you can ask for me. So thanks so much. I hope you guys make it a phenomenal week. Remember, if you love the show, give it a rating and give it a review. Subscribe to the show, download it, send it to your friends. And soon I'm going to be doing a giveaway with canvas bags with the logo of the podcast, as well as some sweet coffee mugs. Or it could be used for tea, of course. But some sweet mugs and some sweet canvas bags with a logo on them. Going to be giving those away, so stay tuned, and I will announce that when that's going to be up and coming. Thanks so much, guys. Make it an awesome week, and we'll see you around next week on the Rise Again podcast.